Welcome back to Kansas Now. My name is Tyler Stansfield Jaggers if this is your first time visiting. And today we're going to be going over the spreadsheet that I made and compiled from notes in my little notebook on the Genovese basil experiment for making germination in seedlings, and kind of going over that process for building a spreadsheet and getting it into Excel. So as you can see from this picture here, the basil on the left seems to be growing very well, and it's easily in the germination phase. I mean, there are so many in there. I didn't expect so many to survive and want to pop out, but it looks like a whole bunch of them did. And we're going to go over this one. This actually started as a sealed container in the beginning, which was interesting because when I ran that by my dad and ChatGPT, they were like, well, you're probably going to have mold and they're going to not survive and stuff. Well, that's the beauty of having an experiment, is you get to just see what happens. So in the experiment, even though it was sealed, it kind of acted as a slight terrarium. And what happened was they became the germinated little seedlings quickly before the one that was opened. But one thing I'm noticing is the completely opened jar has a slightly different color. Like, it's not as smooth of a color. And so we'll find out, is that a good thing? Maybe these ones that had to struggle more or didn't struggle as much in the beginning because there was less air in the one on the left. Maybe the one in the completely open one maybe they'll have stronger leaves. Maybe the leaves will be larger. So that's the beauty of having a spreadsheet. So let's move on then we're going to minimize this photo, and then we're going to go to the spreadsheet itself. And I'm going to make my head smaller just so we have more room. There we go. So as we could see here, there is some different points of data. So I'm going to move it to the left so you could see it a little bit better. And then we're just going to go through right now the legend and how these naming veggie names. See how it says veggie name here? That we're going to see how that was made. So it's always nice to have your own naming convention when you're creating a spreadsheet. Something that's maybe underscore separated or has a delineation that's very clear. That way, if you ever want to put it into a piece of software, you can use, in this case, the underscore as a delineator or separator. So that way you could be like, oh, okay, it is the prefix, and then there's like middle piece of data and then a suffix. Then you can pull apart file names into software later. And I do that all the time for my game development, so thought it might be useful here. So the veggie name here in the file name is BASL, which is short for basil. So I decided early on I'm going to go with a 4-letter veggie name. And then the plot or experiment code is going to have 3 letters. So it's always nice to have rules in your file naming conventions, because if you have rules, you can always change them later. But then if you're using software, like you can do extract the data via a substring, right? And a substring is just part of a piece of text or string data. Or you could think of like a substring to be, let's say you have frogs, and then you just extract the first 4 characters of frogs, then you're just going to have frog without the S, things like that. And then so if you keep your each subparts of your naming convention kind of isometric and all at the same size, the same number of characters, it'll be much easier to extract later if you try and run an algorithm yourself later, which we are going to definitely do, just because there's just so many seeds that I have to work with, and I kind of have a decent amount of space. Now, you'll notice there's a batch, but take a look here. The software of the Microsoft Excel said that the batch is 1, but that doesn't seem to correlate with the complete file name of 001A. So if you want to fix that, you go into Format Cells, and then, okay, here it is, General. That means it's going to have its own rules. So I'm going to say Custom, and I'm going to be going like, I don't know, I'm going to just go 0, I want like text. Okay, I want text because I don't want it to get rid of my leading zeros, because I want each subsection of the file name to be very clear and always have the same number of characters. So now it says it's 1, but that's still wrong. Let's see what happens if I say 001, and now it accepts my 001 as valid. And then now I'm going to go to the right. It gives me a little warning here, but I'm okay with that. And then I'm going to say, I don't want this error. I'm going to go ignore. Bam. And then now we have a subunit of A. The batch and the subunit are for keeping track of them numerically. And then the experiment code, the cap, as you can see, we're going to be like, is it capped? Like, was that sealed? Which we were discussed earlier. And then again, we have the complete file name with Basil. It's capped, and it's 001A, meaning it's the first batch, and it's the first alpha experiment for that batch. Straightforward. So let's take a look here. I'm going to make sure we're all, yeah, okay, good. So I don't have to worry about moving to the right and for a little bit. So let's see, can I zoom in a little bit so it's even more clear? Yes, I think that looks good, zoomed in. So index number, that is just for where the index is in this like spreadsheet. Okay, the veggie name is the full name from the complete compiled together. Planting date. Why is this important? This is actually, I think planting date is kind of ambiguous, because planting date, you think, is that when I put it in the mason jar to be trying to get a seed out of it? Or is that when I took it from the mason jar and moved it to the planting bed? So that's ambiguous. So it's my spreadsheet. It's my file naming conventions. I can fix it. So let's think about it. Well, I think that planting date is not good. Germination date almost implies I know when it went from seed to germination. So I'm going to just say, I'm going to call this seed start date. So it's when I put the seeds in the jar. And I'm just going to leave a note. I'm like, put seeds in jar. Seed start date. This isn't a very eloquent, it's more verbose, and I could fix it later if there's I can run it through ChatGPT or something and be like, is there a more eloquent name I can use to do this, but for right now, it's very clear to me what I'm talking about. Because it's very easy to forget when you have a lot of projects going on. And, if you keep track of your things with a spreadsheet and take notes, this is just my personal philosophy to things, but the more you document and are willing to make failures and have problems, but you're just like, it's no big deal. I'm just going to document my way through the problems, learn from it, not a big deal. It decreases the number of projects that are like half done and they look like they got mothballed. Okay. So I start a lot of projects. Okay. But I don't actually fail that many of them. So even though I've started a ton of projects, very few of them are in a failure state. And there are some projects that I started decades ago learning about them, like building a video game controller that worked on my Xbox and whatnot. Building a video game controller that would work on the PC. These were things that I was thinking about in my 20s, right? But then I didn't actually get good at finishing something and documenting the process until my 30s and now my early 40s. But those aren't fails because I did it and they work. Okay. And so by documenting your process and being willing to keep track of failures and successes in an objective way where you're not like, there's this like soul crushing, like, oh man, I want to just have fun today. You know, I want to do this. I was busy working and I'm tired. It makes you less tired when you document your process. And no one's going to judge you but you on how clearly you do it. And so you might be like, oh, well, Microsoft Excel is expensive, blah, blah. Well, there's Open Office. And I used to use that all the time. And then now I use Excel. But I still use Open Office too. I just, I got Excel, why not use it, right? And then so that's the key. There's free tools out there. Use your free tools and then create underpinnings where you're not so hard on yourself and can build and manifest what your dream projects are. Bam. So let's keep going forward. We made this clear. Put seeds in jar, start date. The veggie specifics, it is Genovese basil, okay? What's its current status? Mulcher means it either was a failure or it turned into worms or something. And so it went back into the mulcher and then I sanitized the jar and I'm going to use it for something else later. Very straightforward. The zone, I wanted to keep track. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, zone, I'm going to move this over now. So we have more room. There we go. So the zone, this one was in the downstairs kitchen sill area, and it was not that much light, okay? And then like its terrarium status is like, did I have it sealed? Was the jar sealed with a little bit of wetness and stuff? And what was it like? And this one, it was sealed. It was capped. Okay. And then it was very wet. And half of it, okay, do we have a person? Okay, we're going to move to the right again. Yes. This is good. Go about here. I'm going to pull my head down so I'm not so scrunchied. Okay. So it was very wet. The coffee grounds, it was only half of it was coffee grounds. And then what was the result, right? Failure due to high coffee grounds content. And it was also too wet. Dirt was sent to the mulcher for recycling. I'm just putting the dirt right back in the mulcher and then let nature do its, its aerobic bacterial stuff on it, and that way it's not a waste, because it's never really a waste, because sunlight mixed with just nature it'll take care of it. And at least there's some bacterial anaerobic aerobic stuff going on in there, so you don't want to just throw it in the trash, right? It still has value. Now very clearly here we're going to see that they're all this fairy morse. They say it's USA organic and non-GMO, and I went on their website, and that's very important to me because I want to grow organic stuff, so I'm starting from an organic non-GMO base, so that way, and I'm going to be able to verify that in a sense by seeing if the basil itself can have its own little basil babies via seeds, not just via cutting, because a lot of the GMO and Frankencrop stuff are not able to reproduce on their own. You have to buy more seeds. And so I don't want to do that because I want to make organic veggies and succulents, whatnot. So I'm going with only organic seeds, and I really like that they make that very clear, especially if I ever which the goal is eventually to bring to a farmer's market or other organic distributors in the area once I'm, grow my farm. And then I can be like, well, I started with, USDA organic seeds, and here's my spreadsheet to let you know where those originated from, you know. And then another thing I like about this is if there's ever scandal, like let's say this brand of seed, there's some scandal in the future where there's something happened. They're like, well, maybe it wasn't, or maybe something fuzzy happened. I'm not saying there was or is, but I can track that and be like, uh-oh, this batch was made with fairy morse. Maybe there was an issue. And then so I'm not going to brand that as this. And I can adjust my marketing material or whatnot appropriately, or just change what I say about it. Like, because you always want to err on the side of caution with anything related to business, right? Where if you think it might be organic, but then there's some kind of scandal stuff saying that it might not, then it's like you don't want to risk a lawsuit or something. So it's better to like undercommit and over-deliver. That would be my motto on things like that. So since that's all the same, we're not going to spend too much time on that. Ba-ba-da-bum. Now we're going to go over here. Bop. Okay. Go over a little more. Back over to about here. Okay, and then we got the Genovese. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the capped versus the uncapped. So from this experiment, you might jump to conclusion and be like, okay, well, the ones that were capped were the ones that got sent to the mulcher. But it also might say, well, the problem was not enough light, because as you could tell, the bungalow, which has more light, the south sill of the bungalow, which is upstairs, those seem to have two that are in germination, right? Make sure you can see this. Yes, you can. Actually, the ones that are made it to germination, let's give them a nice color here. Let's kind of give it a juicy green. Bam. Okay. So the ones that are in germination are good, of course, because they yielded a crop, or the start to a crop, right? But I have so much data, I can make an educated decision and an educated guess based on my data. So my hypothesis for this whole experiment is, given enough attempts of enough mason jars and trying different parts of the house and different wetness and coffee grounds percentage and sealed, unsealed, some of the seeds will germinate. That was my hypothesis. And my hypothesis was found correct, because two of the mason jars did find to germinate. And what I learned from it was that the problem is the most detrimental problem for this process was I'm gonna give myself some color. Yes, the increase custom. I love colors. This is bad, so we're gonna make it more of a blood red. And it's kind of hard to see. Let's get a better color here. Let's just go with, that's too, you don't want to go blind over here. Let's just make this like orangey. Anything above 15% ended up being bad. Okay. And then I'm going to make this as this seems to be good. And then maybe I'll make this one, well, that was 35, but that was very wet. So I'll make this more of like a yellow unknown. Okay. So what does this mean? Everybody that was 50% coffee grounds failed. Too acidic. Way too acidic. And some of them even had a little bit of mold forming on the top. And then so they couldn't germinate. Also, like very wet with high coffee grounds. The only one that had any results was where is it? Oh yeah, this one. This one made worms. That's it. the best thing that this guy could do was make worms, medium wet capped, high acidity from the coffee grounds. So I would say, based on this experiment, the 15% coffee grounds was good. Anything more than that, probably making it really tough. Okay. And then also, anything that was very wet failed. So, like, very wet. Look at this. Very wet, very wet. Sorry. That's fail. Okay. And it took a medium wet to create worms, which was interesting. It's kind of a medium wet. But look at this one. Medium wet. And this one had a cellophane with holes. It wasn't actually sealed. And it was medium wet. And that failed too. I was just went to the mulcher. So look at this. Germination. Capped until germ and open air. Low wetness. What was the description? Highlight, low coffee content, was capped. And then let's go back to our picture. These guys created a lot of germination for the seeds early. And it actually produced the little initial kind of, I forgot the word for that, but it's not quite leaves. It's like the beginning of the leaves. And almost a full 3 days before the one that was uncapped. So scientific method is you have a hypothesis, you test it, you gain data, and then you start to draw some conclusions. And my conclusion that I did, which is more like another hypothesis that I should test, is the sealed terrarium style environment of the low wetness, low coffee content, and the high light of being in the airport bungalow area creates a situation where the seeds germinate early because there is a little bit of stress. That's my new hypothesis based on this data. So in a sense, an untested conclusion is almost like another hypothesis that you could check for another experiment, right? And so, which I'm going to do, because my idea is that the low amount of air and then a little bit of water creates a tiny bit of stress for the germinated seeds to want to exit the ground and exit the dampness in order to seek out more air. That's my idea. And also, the sealed environment creates a feedback loop for the initial bacteria to start working on the dirt and just getting some stuff happening there, minerally and vitaminally wise, that the seeds were able to kind of sense that there's changes, maybe some microbial changes. Also, the increased humidity might have signaled to the seeds it's time to do their work. But I think it was a mix of those factors, like the humidity, the stress of not a whole lot of air circulation, and the microenvironment of it being sealed kind of probably made it so it's like, hey, it's time to start working here, because the results are impressive on the one that was sealed, which ChatGPT, like we said it was not going to germinate, period. And then this one, same amount of coffee content, same amount of dampness, the same amount of seeds in the actual jar, and then far less are there now. But I think as I monitor this one, it will have just as many, if not more. But I could be wrong. It could have a little bit less. This sealed aspect may be very important for doing your starter germination. So that I'm really happy about today's episode. And immediately after the spreadsheet presentation, I'm going to have some video footage for you to see of me with the camera kind of zooming in so you can get a closer look. So thank you for starting and watching this initial part of the presentation. And this is very important to me, the documenting side of it. And I really love sharing it with people because when we are able to share the scientific method, we're creating almost like societal underpinnings so we all can learn faster and help each other through the mistakes and possible pitfalls that can happen in urban farming. And just want to say thanks for lasting this long in the video. And then there's an additional video at the end. As you can see, the Basil, which one is this? 002A is doing great. 001A opened. It's doing great too. Weren't as many germinating right now, but still going to track their progress. This one, open 001B. Just looks like mud. Probably going to be sent to the mulcher soon. This one here looks like it's already doing stuff. That's interesting. It's kind of opening up. So take a look at that.